with my friends every day with lots of smile on our face.
Okay, so today I'll be talking about domestic violence, and my name is Quỳnh. I come from class 10C2. You guys can call me Gabriel. So domestic violence, what is the meaning to you guys? Domestic violence basically means that it's abusive actions towards your partner in a families. It could mean from parent to parent or from parent to children. But today, we'll only focus on the violence from parents towards children. Before we move on, I would want to tell you about two stories that actually happened to my friend. And to make the story a little bit exciting, I would want you guys to note that this story is 100% true. So please keep in mind that. I have a friend who was born to a single mom. You guys can call him Kim. His single mom was a really famous model, which worked in the fashion industry of Vietnam. He was not known to the public because his mother was obviously a very famous person, and she wouldn't want to be known to have a single child without the father. Since childhood, he was famous amongst his friends in school because he was born to a really famous mother, and his mother was also an influencer, so he was really notable amongst all of his friends in school. He was a really tall and handsome guy, of course, because of his mother's genes. And he was obviously really rich because of his mother, and she could possibly provide him with anything he wanted in life. And he was having the best life ever. He was going to, prestigious school and then enjoying his best life, wearing the latest trends of fashion, and his mother could possibly provide him with anything. But, being a single mom was always hard for women. And she was a really young and attractive woman too. She often goes to bars, pubs, and clubs to, just drinking and meeting up with new guys. And then often she would come home drunk and vomit everywhere. So at that time, when her feelings are feeling really down and she's having a bad day, she would often pull Kim inside the bathroom and would violate him. Like, she would undress him and then would kick him and smack him until he lose consciousness. She would often blame him for making her life this bad. And that was the end of the story one. And we'll move on to another story. Okay, so the next story begins in a normal family with two parents and a big brother and a little sister. One day the big brother, he found out that he had heart failure when he was only in grade 4. At that time, he was really positive with his illness, and he still kept on with his studies. He even did a really good job too. Like, he even got into one of the hardest schools in his region. And he also made a lot of money by selling shoes. By that time, he was already in grade 10, and he could already provide himself with all he needs, and he can even pay for his operations independently. But, apart from all his tryings, his parents, they were not really supportive. And they would often isolate him alone. They wouldn't even let him to eat in the same table. They think of him as an illness, as a disease, and they don't want to be near him. And his parents, they don't want to take responsibility towards him. Even though he was really trying to, keep in touch with them and talk to them. But they wouldn't help. They wouldn't accept it. They don't take him as a child. Even when he got into the prestigious school that he wanted, and he could possibly pay for his tuition fees. But no, they wouldn't let him to go there. They would say that, well, you know what? You're about to die. You don't need to study anymore. Well, you're about to die anytime soon, so you don't need these. Just let your money to use it on your little sister. It's more useful. You cannot pay us anything back anytime soon because you're about to die. And apart from all of his all of the negative actions, he still kept on. And one day, the parents, they left for work in the morning and they left him back in his house, looking after his little sister. The little sister, they didn't have breakfast, so obviously they were hungry. And he decided to lock the doors and went out to a local bakery shop to get some cake for her. He came back within only 5 minutes, but unlucky for him, his parents found out that he left his little sister in the house alone. So they started to tie him up in the house pillar, like tie him up. And his dad, he pulled out a belt and started to whip him, like beat him until he bled. No, like he didn't even care about, he was having a heart failure. And if doing that, he could risk his life and die. But the dad didn't care. And yes, apart from all of, and right now, my friend, he is in hospital, and the doctors told him that he has only 1 month left to live because of his disease, because of his illness. He has only 1 month left to live. But his parents, they don't even care about it. And all they do is left him back in the hospital alone and let him rot and die. They didn't even pay him a visit. And all he has was his cousin, who is now 18 and could be his legal guardian. And she was like paying for him and providing him with all he needs. He didn't even let his friends know about his illness at school yet, so I'm the only person who knows about it. And basically openly talk about it here. But apart from all of his parents, apart from all his parents' negativeness, he decided to live his life and to put all of his money up for donation. And he even signed up to be an organ donor to help many more lives to live. And I was really proud that I am a friend towards such a really generous guy and a really kind and caring little kid. Okay, so that's the end of 2 stories. What do you guys think about it? Like, what's the similarity between 2 stories and what's the moral of it? The reason why I'm telling the story here is that these 2 children, they have nothing in common but one thing: domestic violence. They are suffering from it. They are suffering from bad parenting. They are suffering from, broken families. They did nothing wrong in both cases, but they still suffer. And it also means that domestic violence can happen to anyone, no matter if you're rich, you're poor, no matter if you study good or you don't, no matter if you're tall, you're short, you're good looking or you're not. It can happen to anyone sitting here inside this room. And please take a note that if any of these things happen to you one day, please speak to your local authorities or seek help from your teachers, because none of you deserves this. It was never ever your problem and your cause. No matter what you've done, it was never your fault that you suffered from it. Domestic violence is always wrong. And this point of view, thương cho roi cho vọt, ghét cho ngọt cho bùi in Vietnam, it's really common, like amongst most Vietnamese parents, when they beat their children, and they used to be saying that, well, because I love you, I'm doing that, it's for your own good. But actually, no, they're just venting your anger on you and taking this as an excuse. And it never meant anything. You hurt your child, and that's it. Like, what kind of violence could be good for your children? Never. Like, beating them makes things worse. Like, what do you even think of beating your children is gonna make them realize something good in their life? No. It's gonna make them feel bad that they're having parents who would violate them just, to relieve their stress and to even vent their angers on. Like, they would feel really ashamed of having parents like that. And get to ngọt cho bùi, it means that if you really care about your child, it just means that you hate them and they're not gonna become, great people in the future. No, that is a really wrong stereotype in Vietnam right now. Like, mostly for old-fashioned parents only, they're just venting their angers on their little children and they think that, yeah, we're doing it for their own good, we're beating them. It's supposedly going to help them in the future. They're going to understand it one day, but no. I personally, my parents, they were really, they have a really short tempered and they would sometimes scold me or sometimes even beat me. But I understand that. They are only venting their anger on me and they're not gonna making me realize anything good in my life. The thing that you're supposed to do is to sit down and talk to your children and really figure out what's wrong. Not beating them and trying to make them cry and, it could cause them to feel really bad depression and even like suicide. Because, violence was never the answer to the problem, no matter what. So that was the end of my presentation. Thank you for your time. And before I end this presentation, I want you guys to keep in your mind that no matter what, violence is never the answer. And if it happens to you, it's never your fault, no matter what you've done. Thank you.